Been through a couple of shipwrecks, so glad it's over with my ex. But we stay afloat cause you're my index. Seeing clearly now, don't need Windex. Zooming inwards and forward and I don't need the context. I know less is more when you keep my data in check. Hey, I think you're the best for me. Hey, cause you help me see. Whoa, cause you're my index. Whoa, my data's in check. Whoa, cause you're my index. Index.
Hello everyone, so if you can hear us, if you can see us, please set the thumbs up in the YouTube chat so we will know we can start. And meanwhile, hi Patrick, hi Ab, hi Michelle. Glad to see you all. We have some people in the YouTube chat already saying it's all good. And that means what our meetup is starting right now. I'm very happy to have you all here, and I'm glad to introduce you to the attendees of this special meeting to us. First, Patrick McFadin. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah, it's morning.
Yeah. You know, normally I would travel for this. This is what I was just sadly thinking about. Like, I miss Amsterdam a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I did some really cool meetups in Amsterdam. We did one at a customs house. It was like from like the 1600s, and somebody had a really cool. It was a startup incubator, and we did a meetup there. I mean, I love your Skype. It's really cool, but it's just not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Skype is better than nothing, but that's not even close. And my talk in Amsterdam last year, yeah, it was a great time. Absolutely great time. And a lot of friends in Amsterdam. But why we are speaking about Amsterdam actually today? What would you say, people?
Yeah. What was that?
Answer is simple. Today we have a special meetup because, well,
we're talking about Cassandra.
Yeah,
that's
we speak about Cassandra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But not only about Cassandra. Today we have two great topics. First of all, or I would say, like in the second part of the meetup, Patrick will say us a lot of interesting things about Cassandra version 4 because it's in beta 4 state and it's going to be released hopefully very soon. But that's not the only topic we have today, because in general, finally, data stacks is growing a lot, specifically in Netherlands, and today we will ask our gentlemen in Netherlands about how it goes for them and what are the plans and what are they going to do in the next few months. And very interesting, why did they decide to join DataStax to enforce our Netherlands team? So that's Cassandra Global Meetup, dedicated for Netherlands. That's a bit funny how world works in 21st century. Yeah, indeed.
2021.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, let me check. It looks like everything is good. Good and middag. Good and I think that's how do you speak that? Goedemiddag?
Goedemiddag. Very close, Alex.
Good chance to learn Dutch right on the Cassandra Global Meetup. But anyway, we have to start, and we start. I want to ask some questions to our team. Today we have here, I'm sorry, App, I have no idea how to pronounce your last name. App.
Well, you give it a try. Why not?
Okay. I would try to say it like hating.
Yeah, that's coming close. It's not too bad actually. Yeah, it's hating. But you did a great job with that. Absolutely.
Great. And Michelle Deroux. And
that was an easy one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, you see, I have some friends in Netherlands, so it wasn't so hard. So first of all, welcome to the team, App Heiting and Michel Deroux and Prince Jaspal. We have today out of the screen, sadly. But anyway, now we have a lot more people in this team. And my first question is, Michel, you joined us recently, and I've heard you are the most techie, most into the technical questions from all the three gentlemen joined us recently. What do you say about that, and how is your background regarding these technology things?
Yeah, well, it's very, very simple. I've worked in data management, distributed data management for about 15 years now. I've worked with a lot of NoSQL technologies. But unfortunately, up until 3-4 months ago, I never really worked with Cassandra. So, I had a chat with somebody from DataStax. He said to me, "Yeah, you should have a look at it." And so finally, I did, and I started working with it. I did some investigation in terms of the architecture, and it got me. I just fell in love with the elegant architecture of Cassandra. It's the architecture, and it's essentially it's simplicity. It offers you so many good things that are difficult to get with a lot of other NoSQL technologies. So yeah, I started working with it. I fell in love with it, and here I am.
Yeah, I understand you a lot. As an engineer, for me, it's very important what technologies I work with, of course, and so I just can double what you say regarding this story. Because it was my story as well. And then I want to introduce App. And App, could you please tell us a little bit of words about what are you doing and what's your background and what are you going to do at this role?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, hello everybody. I joined DataStax 3 weeks ago. I'm going to be working in the sales department, focusing on what we call here cloud sales. So, where we are going to we have some exciting products, cloud products, but we're going to launch even more interesting things in the future. So that's my role. And when you look at my background, I've always been active in the microservice API management space. And what really attracted me to DataStax is the fact that with new products like Stargate, and also being able to run it on Kubernetes, make it very easy for developers to work with Cassandra. Seeing the company pivoting that way was for me a big trigger to join the company. So that's in short me.
Yeah, great. And from our side, we can say we are very happy to have you here. All of you is great. And I hope these bad times of everything's closed will end at some moment, and we will meet finally again somewhere in Netherlands, and maybe in Amsterdam, maybe not. There are a lot of great cities I would love to visit again. And that's great. So for all the people working in Netherlands companies or nearby, you now have some more people to contact and chat about different possibilities and options. Everything regarding Apache Cassandra and DataStax Enterprise, and especially DataStax Astra, our beloved, one of the most beloved projects we have at this moment. So whatever you might find important for you, you may get some people to chat with. And hey, Patrick, you looks like, oh, he is not sleeping. What's time at your place? It should be pretty early.
7 o'clock in the morning. It's not that bad.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, the
No.
sun is starting to come up. So whatever you're seeing right now, I'm just getting a little bit of. So, but it happens every day. So we're okay.
So
I set my clock by it.
I'm a night bird, so for me, like 7 a.m. sounds pretty bad. But I'm glad you like it. At our
I can't work with people in Europe and sleep in. It's just impossible. My day usually starts at 7 a.m. just so I can talk to somebody in Central European time. Yeah.
You know what? As we are speaking about people joining DataStax, at the first day when I decided to accept the offer, good offer from DataStax, it was like 2 years and something ago, maybe 2.5. I told to my wife what the moment you start to work for an American company, originally American, now international, it's just a question of time when you will get a phone call in 3 a.m. And that happened the very next night.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Yeah, exactly. This is how it works. And then later today at like 5 o'clock my time, I'll be on the phone with people in Australia and New Zealand. So I mean, it's just living in a global community.
Like a 24/7.
That's right. Yeah.
Always on.
Yeah.
Our database doesn't go down, and neither do we.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Available all the
No.
time. So,
Yeah.
Patrick, you know what? We have been waiting for Cassandra version 4 for how many years?
About 100, I think. No, 2015 was when we released 3.0, and yeah, it was a freaking long time ago. But it's worth the wait. I think that it was interesting because I was talking to some folks last night about the pending release, and if you look at what's been done in Cassandra 4.0, and this isn't part of the presentation, but it's a mature database now, and this is really a grown-up moment for a database that's 10 years old. When you're trusting a database that is your database of record that I would say almost every bank in the world uses, you have to think about a database in a different way, and you can't release a database. Now, it's not like nothing's happened in the project. I mean, we're up to 3.11 in the main branch, and it's pretty stable as it is, and somewhat bug free. But 4.0 is a significant shift, and I'm going to show you because you think of like the companies that use it. It runs their business. Apple, Huawei, Netflix, ING has a big presence there too. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the people that I've worked with over time. Walmart in the U.S., Target in the U.S. It's just, this is what it is, and you can't release a database based on a marketing schedule. Like, well, we should have a release because we're having a user conference next month. No, we're not doing that. And this is a bit of a preview, but the reason it will be released is when all of the largest contributors agree that it is ready for production and they're running it in production.
Yep. And who do you think was the biggest contributor to the version 4? I've heard different versions. I've heard what Apple did really a lot of work to release version 4. I've seen some noticeable changes and interesting proposals from Instagram. And also I know what Netflix, as usual, Netflix did a haystack of work and did a lot of improvements. So who do you think made the biggest impact to the version 4?
The contributors to Cassandra.
Yeah, I mean, but
no, you can't say it was a single company because I mean, over that many years, and the contributor core of database, the Cassandra database, there's 30 plus contributors that come from all sorts of companies, including the Wikimedia Foundation and Apple and DataStax and Instacluster. And but here's the thing that's funny is like these contributors have moved around. Like some of these people were working at DataStax, now they're working at Apple. Some worked at different companies, and so to say like which company contributed the most, that's bullshit. It's not a company. This is not a company's product. Yep. This is an Apache project, and it's a bunch of very dedicated individuals who have found companies that align with their worldview, which is, I want to work on this really freaking amazing database. Can you pay me to do that? And we have really great companies that are willing to do that, like Facebook, like Netflix, and that's really cool. That's what makes this project really awesome.
I agree, exactly. I'm very happy to see it not as a competition, but more of a teamwork, even across the companies would pretty often compete at some points, some parts of a market, but still developing something together. That's great.
Yeah, no, I talk to people that are quote unquote competitors all the time, and we just take that hat off when we talk about Cassandra. It's just not that's
Yeah.
not important. It's the, if Cassandra is the most useful, popular, well-used database in the world, then we'll all be
Yep.
okay. You know, we're not going to lock it down and say it's oh no, it's only DataStax's database. Leave us alone. That didn't work out for some companies
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. Such a story. One more question. I know what there is at least one production use case for Cassandra version 4 already, and you know whom I mean. The story we discussed it recently.
Oh, that
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of folks that are running 4.0 in
Yeah,
production right now.
okay, so I know only one success story. Maybe you share with us something about that. So there are people using Cassandra version 4, which is in beta 4 state, already in production. So what would you say about that?
Well, the last remaining critical bug is this is what I mean. It's an open source project, so you can go see what's broke. The last remaining bug out there that is critical that needs to get fixed before we go into RC is the group by clause can return deleted data. So if you're not using group by, then you shouldn't be running into any nasty bugs. The rest of the tickets that are in 4.0 are around testing that isn't completing properly. This is one of the goals of the project management committee is that all of the tests will pass with green lights or at least work. No more flaky tests in the project. So that's been, it doesn't show that the database is broken. It shows that the tests aren't right and they want to make sure they're correct before we ship 4.0. But so if you're interested in running 4.0 in production, it's a beta. Just be aware. But I'd say you're pretty safe right now. And if anything, try it in staging to see how it works against your production workload. The companies I'm talking to now, they are pleasantly surprised how easy it was to upgrade. That's also been one of the things in the project. But also just a performance increase that's happened over the simplification of the code path, and you'll see. I'll cover a lot of things that you'll be interested in, but it's been pretty smooth so
Okay,
far.
so now we are about to start Cassandra version 4 presentation done by Patrick McFadin, and afterwards we are going to have some time to answer questions if we will have any in the YouTube chat. I hope we will. So don't hesitate to ask your questions. That's a rare chance you may get them answered by best of the best experts. And for Cassandra, we always have something to say. Regarding the team, there are not only 4 people at the screen, as you see, but much more people answering questions in the YouTube chat. And I think, Patrick, we are ready to start.
I feel like I already did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to switch to your screen if you are ready.
Well, let's really start. No,
Start.
Yeah,
Start. Okay, so I'm switching.
All right, let me start sharing. Let's do the awkward. This is like, changing out your laptop whenever you do a live presentation. So awkward. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So looks good. Looks good.
It looks better when I get into it. All right, so I think this seems like the right deck. You never know, but Cassandra 4.0, yeah. Reliable, elastic, fastest. Why not? So we know that Cassandra. If you're new to Cassandra, this is the one slide that says you should get to know it better. It's not a new database by any stretch, but it's been around for a while for good reason. It started in an era that data was the biggest problem in scaling. And that's actually when I got involved. And when we were trying to make applications work on a fast growing population of people using applications on the internet, such as mobile applications and web applications, the thing that kept failing was our database. And take it from me, I ran Oracle for so many years. But Oracle ran right up until you ran out of money. And that was a problem. So we as a large group of technical people who can't sit still decided that we needed new databases to address the problem that we had created, and Cassandra was a part of that. So this is how this is my origin story for Cassandra. Is it was born of need. It wasn't an interesting project that somebody came up with because it would just seem like a good idea. No, this was really, like, it started at Facebook. The two guys that did it, Avinash and Prakash, were trying to solve a problem at Facebook in the message inbox, and they did. And they graduated into the Apache Foundation and was picked up by a lot of companies along the way. And it's because, and it wasn't because they were bored engineers. It was because those companies had scale problems, and those early adopters have paved the way for everybody to be able to use a database that will take the largest scale loads in the world. And I'm very confident when I say there is no database that has this much of an importance now in 2021. It's running the world's largest workloads, period. So this is this is the awkward side. I'm like, yeah, 2015 we did 3.0. And this path to 4.0, as I mentioned earlier, it has been an interesting one and really important for it's a mature part of this project. The arguments, the debates, a lot of what's happened in the project are really good for seeing this go to the next 10 years. We got to the 10-year mark, and it's like the database is in kind of an adolescent phase, and we're moving on. But we're firming up what it means to have a release. And this is the first one that's really about stability first only, and then features second. And so when you look at the path to 4.0, Alex, turn off your mic. This is what happens when you do stuff live. And plus, you got the clickiest keyboard. What is that, like a Razer? Oh, yeah. Yeah, very clicky. Yeah, my son has that Razer keyboard, and when he's playing games, I can hear him like so far away. So all the features are frozen in Cassandra right now, so you should not expect any changes at all other than stability. And we're on beta 4 right now. We will be on RC pretty quickly, I think. And release candidate, it means that this is what we think is going to be the final, unless we find something horrible. And how do we find something horrible? Testing, people trying it out in their environments and giving feedback to the project. This is my first appeal to you as a contributor. Do you want to contribute to Cassandra? This is a great way to contribute right now. We need people looking at it. So what's going on 3 versus 4? It wasn't like it was just slow because no one was working on it. I mean, the amount of work that's gone into 4.0 is pretty substantial, just in bug fixes. And they aren't just all devastating data loss bugs. They're just little tiny things here and there. And it's because of the amount of testing that has happened with 4.0. I can't reiterate this more. There are, I think, 3 separate sub-projects now in the Cassandra project that do with different kinds of testing. Fuzz testing, destruction testing, load testing. And like destruction and fuzz testing are very difficult. There's a project called Harry, which is now in the project, which just does these ridiculous things to data, but it finds little weird problems that you never would think of until it hits you in production one day. And distributed test databases are tough. They're hard to work with sometimes. And getting the right kind of tool to give us the assurance that it's going to store your data and not lose it, that is almost as important as the database itself, because we need to have the confidence to use it. And like I said, if the world is running on Cassandra, we should make sure that it's doing that. So what's new? Mostly this is an update. This release has been focused on the people that are running Cassandra, the operators. And I've heard a few developers say, well, there's not a lot of sexy stuff for developers. Not a lot, really, except for it's not going to fail you. And that's really cool. But it's like security is so uncool, right? Until you get a breach, and then that's the coolest thing you've ever heard, right? But what I'm going to go walk through some of the things, and if you have run a Cassandra cluster before, some of these problems. So first and foremost, and I think this is the one that everyone loves to hear about, is repair process. And repair, of course, is, if you're new to Cassandra, that is the process. It's not like fixing it. It's the anti-entropy repair, which is basically going through the entire cluster to make sure that this distributed data set is consistent. And which is tough in a large scale system. If you're running across multiple data centers and thousands of nodes, it's potentially you're gonna lose some data somewhere for whatever reason. Maybe a bit gets dropped somewhere. This is what makes sure that your data across all of that is solid. However, that process has always been very tricky for operators, and so now what we have is where instead of this has been the thing. It's like people say, "Oh, I want to run repair," but it's like the worst possible thing you can do. It hurts because there's all these little things you have to think about, and sometimes there was these weird failure modes, and has just been a perpetual issue with Cassandra. We finally had a group at a couple of companies that decided to just figure this out and have redone so much in repair. It's wrapped in this transaction now, so if there is a failure at any point, it can restart where it left off. So incremental repairs are better. All that control is there. And then the same defaults. This was the thing about repair that I think bothered a lot of Cassandra DBAs, was that when you run repair, you have to make adjustments immediately. The same defaults were not probably going to work for you. Now I think out of the box, it should work just fine. And if you're interested in out of process and having better control of it, we also have Cassandra Reaper, which is a part of the project as well. Virtual tables. This is my personal. I finally got this in. I've been trying to get virtual tables. I've done a talk at the Next Generation Cassandra Conference, which is a committer conference. I probably did like 3 years in a row about adding virtual tables. One of the things I really missed from my Oracle days was being able to use SQL to query the state of the database. To get to the data tables or to any kind of data around the meta information about the database, you had to use this thing called GMX. And if you've ever used GMX, I'm sorry, you probably spit on the ground just now. I apologize. It's horrible, right? It's Java management extensions. No one wants to run it anymore. It's just an arcane way of getting to your metadata. But what virtual tables do is they expose the metrics inside of your database as a table, just that. And it seems like such a simple thing, but it took a lot of reworking on how Cassandra works, and I'm really happy that it's here finally. So whenever, like for instance, in the systems key space, now you could say like what key spaces do I have, and then what kind of information can I get from them? And so I think this is going to open up the door for a lot of really cool integrations, and for sure it's going to make it a lot easier for people who are running Cassandra clusters to just get some information without having to install, configure, secure JMX. You can just get a CQL shell and ask the system what's going on. What's coming in like these system views that are out there, these are read-only for now. This is what's here for 4.0. There's already issues and JIRAs in there for doing updates as well. So if you want to change what Cassandra is doing, you can use a virtual table. So that would be an insert or update into a virtual table to change the way that a runtime Cassandra works. That is an obvious next step. And I think the reason we didn't add it to 4.0 is just because, all right, when we did the feature freeze, we're like, look, let's just start with a read. That's a good start. And writing to the database will change some things. For security, we now have this, and this is, again, one of the things that came out of a lot of users needing the same thing, which is full query logging and audit logging. The full query logging, the FQL, it finds itself right in the middle of the query manager. So it is right there. It can pull those queries right out of the stream. It's the same mechanism for both systems. It's very lightweight. So one of the things that anytime I see any kind of an issue or JIRA that's raised around the write path for the database, or even the read path, the write path, I'm very protective of. I get nervous because one of the things I really love about Cassandra is the simplicity of how it works. It fits, and it doesn't take a PhD in computer science to figure out. When we start adding things into the write path, it starts adding weird latencies and contingencies. Oh, you have to do this or that. I don't like that. This does a really good job of lightly touching what happens. It creates a sidecar for that data, but it gives you access into everything that was sent to the database. And so if you want to do for full query logging, you get the exact query strings for everything. And that can be helpful whenever you're doing troubleshooting, or you want to replay, you want to store workloads and then replay them. That's actually one of the things that's being done quite a bit in the 4.0 testing that's happening now is, all right, let's run a workload against it and then continue to run that workload against it using the FQL of full query logging. It's not just a text file. And there's a tool that comes with this FQL tool, which you can export out the data. The audit logging, it takes it a little more on the security side of that. So instead of just dumping all of the queries into a binary file, you can do like auditing on different, like I want to make sure that I know who's doing what and when. This is very entry level for anyone that's involved in security in databases. If you work at a financial services company, you know that audit logging is an absolute must. You have to have it. And what it allows you to do is be more selective on all of the options that you want. So you can look at just a little bit, or you can look at a lot. And this is a big part of, I think, it will be a big part of security for Cassandra going forward. So you can look at the different, like if you just want to see audits, say for instance on DML, like all the update, delete, batch, or SQL update, delete, batch operations, great, no problem. Or if you want to just see the changes to key spaces and tables, you can do that as well. There's just a lot of these. Like I think probably the one that's going to be used a lot is like error, like logging a CQL request failures. So if your developers are sending bad queries into the system, you can have it log those, which is probably going to be pretty handy for folks that are working with developer teams. And you get that email, your database is broken, and you go into the error log and find out that they just keep doing the wrong query over and over again. Yeah. I was a DBA. I know you get that moment of being superior. It's like, you just don't know how to use my database. That's the problem. So new and improved features, that not beyond that, but some of the things that will affect not just operators, but developers as well. The change data capture. This is another one that I've been really not happy with for a long time. There was two camps on change data capture in the Cassandra project, and I was on the losing camp for a long time, but I'm not bitter. But change data capture is another critical feature for modern databases. In a nutshell, what that means is when you commit changes to the database, it emits that change in some sort of a stream. And think about those moments like you want to send an alert. This is one of my Nest, the thermostat company, was one of the originators of the change data capture feature in Cassandra. And what they wanted was when a temperature event went to the database, say like a high temperature event, like I want to trigger on a certain temperature. Well, instead of having it go into a streaming system that would then send an alert and not get committed to the database. And the reason was they had this just-in-time problem. They wanted to make sure if someone pulled up their application, their Nest application, that if they got an alert and then they go look at the temperature on their app, that the temperature in the database was what got alerted on. So database, commit to the database, then emit it, and send an alert. That was the order they wanted it in. And I think it makes sense if you think about how events work in databases like this. And so change data capture has had, the initial implementation had some really weird, I'm not going to say weird, it had some problematic features that had to be dealt with, like dealing with duplicate data and what happens if you have a repair process running. This is going to be a lot better, and there's more improvements coming. And it's just because I think this is just a very basic feature for a modern database to have. And so there's a lot of focus on this feature. And things that you can do with it, like we already have like a Kafka source connector that will emit it into a Kafka topic. There are things out. We have DataStax Labs. We have some test code around it that you could try out. And then there's even a project out there that shows an example. But I think it's also you're gonna see it just become a part of a lot of other projects like Cassandra. The faster bootstrap and streaming there's a lot of reasons this is the case. And primarily, so just kind of quick review, to bootstrap, to add new nodes to an existing Cassandra cluster is an online operation. So when you add a node to the system, you don't have to take it down, which was actually one of the first features I really loved about Cassandra, because I was tired of getting up at 3 a.m. to mess with my database. I wanted to do it during the day. This is one of the cool features about Cassandra is you can take away and add nodes in the middle of the day, no problem. But that operation requires moving data at a significant amount sometimes. And when we look at node sizes, like how big a node can be, this is one of the big considerations, is like, how long does it take to bootstrap it? And if you look at the larger operators out there, like the Apples and the Huaweis and Netflix, they optimize around how faster we can recover if we lose an entire data center or an entire rack of equipment. This is what the database is built to do. It will hold up to that. You can lose infrastructure, but eventually you're going to have to replace it or move it to something else. And then there's just the load, the elastic part of building a database. And the elastic meaning you can grow it and shrink it quickly. Critical, right? There are plenty of use cases where you want to have load ready for you. If there's like some sort of a surge, like a Black Friday event, Cyber Monday, Boxing Day, there's all these different events in the world where basically we want people to buy a lot of stuff, and that generates a ton of load. Well, during that moment, you want a lot more services online, and after you want to spin them down. So what makes all that work really well? Well, it's moving data and how efficient that is. One of the things that are really important is this zero copy streaming. And what it is it allows for faster bootstrapping through some really cool tricks, and it just moves data faster, basically at wire speed. So it's moving entire files instead of like, here's one piece of data and another one and another one. That's just ridiculous. The thing about Cassandra, which really is interesting from a architecture standpoint, is that data files are all immutable. They should be able to be moved, and you can. So it just takes advantage of that fact inside of the database. There are, just in easy testing that we've done in growing clusters, it's like 5 times faster on Bootstrap. And Bootstrap is when you add a new node to the system. And the better mean time to recovery, better elasticity, all those things are there because and zero copy streaming is just one of them. There's a lot of things around that. Another one that is this idea of client back pressure. A wonderful feature and horrible thing about Cassandra, the database, is that you can kill it with a client, and it will do everything it can to stay online, except tell the client to knock it off. It will just keep going, and it's great. I mean, it's for some cases I've seen Cassandra databases just absolutely destroyed and still running, and it's because of the client. There was not enough nodes to run the load that they put against it, but the database did its best. But I think as DBAs wake up to that feature, they're like, can we not allow this thing to drive off a cliff So client back pressure, huge. This is a big win for DBAs everywhere. Have a coffee or have a beer on me. This is a good one, because what this allows, and it's intelligent about the way that it does this, is as the data is being pushed into the database and the clients start talking to each other. And it's when the database is like, look, I can't do, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to slow down. That's basically what's happening. And it's not just a hard stop. There's a lot going on there. And there's a really good blog post about how this works. I think the easy way would be like, rate limit chopped off, and then all these clients get cut off, and then you start getting these timeouts on your client. Now, this isn't how this works, but you start getting exceptions that actually mean something when you get too many inbound messages. This is going to be, I think, a big win for operators, because it's going to give you more control over the terrible things your developers will do to you. It does have a pretty important impact on performance, and this is what we know just as large scale operators out there, is that when you're queuing and being efficient, it actually makes the database more performant, because it's not trying to fight fires the whole time. We've done a lot of testing with this, and it does a really good job. I mean, if you look at like the difference between like overall read operations, for instance, and you can see that does the blue line up there, and then the latency is also much better. It's just because it's allowing the database to stay healthy and communicate with the client, and that's a good thing. We want the database to be healthy, because that's the most important part of your whole infrastructure. Trust me. The workload capture. This is, I mentioned earlier about the FQL, the full query logging. Guess what? We figured out a use for it already. So this is really helpful. I think this will be a big deal especially for more cloud native operations. Like if you're using Kubernetes and declarative infrastructure, you think about your CI/CD pipeline and how you build out your infrastructure, and you use your continuous integration. Well, you're probably going to want to run that against workloads that are real. As you change your code, as you add new features, workload capture is a big deal, and it allows you to capture real-time stuff like what's going on in your production workload, and let you replay it. And I think this is, like I said, stay tuned, because as DBAs everywhere wake up to like, oh, I can do this and it's important, I think you're going to see some really cool discussion point, like maybe meetups. And if you do it, we would love to have you on a meetup, and talks at the Cassandra Summit, or at the Cassandra Summit at the Apache conference about, hey, here's how I continuously test my database in production. It's really cool. And then, of course, this is what everybody wants to know about. Well, it's new. Is it faster? Well, yes, it is. But it's not just the database performance as much as everything that is a part of Cassandra operations. And I'll start out with compaction. Again, for those of you that are new, compaction is a really critical process in Cassandra. It's what, when we pour data into the database, the way that the architecture works is that it stores it into a mem table first and flushes that mem table to disk in a single file called an SS table, which then has to be, it's immutable. So as you build out more of those, there's a process called compaction, and compaction reads multiple files, those immutable files, into memory, merge sorts, and then rewrites that file back out to the file system. That compaction process is heavy, but it's also very predictable. Huge improvements in how it works. And it's one of the things that if compaction is super efficient and better, then it's going to make your whole cluster healthier. And this is what we've got. We've seen some really important, I think some great improvements there. And I think everyone is going to be, who has run Cassandra in the past, is going to be pretty pleasantly surprised. And if you're new to Cassandra, you won't get the compaction jokes anymore. They just won't exist anymore. Java 11, it's Java 11. I know, woo, that's not exactly new, but the standard for Cassandra had been JDK 8, and of course JDK 8 is dead now. It was long gone. It'll go back into the annals of Java history. But what we're looking, for 4 is running on Java 11 now. I know everyone's already talking about Java 17 because it has some really cool stuff in it. But Java 11 is going to be the baseline for 4 until further notice. And so we looked at how to optimize for some of the features that are built into Java 11. And of course, when you talk about Java, you're talking about the one thing that everybody wants to talk about that nobody really wants to talk about, which is garbage collection. And the standard, the concurrent mark and sweep, the CMS, that, if you're using CMS still, you should think differently. But G1GC was, a newer option as of several years ago. But now we have these new things, ZGC and Shenandoah. And so we did some testing. And so Alex, he did this great blog post. It's on the Last Pickle website. It really, just out of the box, Java 11 brings about 25% improvement in throughput and latency. Latency is a key one. And then I'm going to put a big asterisk on this is if you're going to use some of the newer garbage collection schemes like ZGC and Shenandoah, be really, really careful about your workloads. And the reason being is these are new. And we saw some really cool stuff. So I'm going to show here's the big slide that everyone's going to like lean into their screen on, like, ooh, picture with numbers. The thing about JDKA is, thank God it's gone, because it just didn't perform very well in this case. But and Java is already a very performant language. I have to remind everyone, you see like, oh, well, if it was written in Rust or in C++, it's got to be faster. Not really. Java is just as performant as either of those languages in a lot of workloads, and especially in the type of workloads that we use in a distributed system. So that's really not as big of a problem. And I also want to reiterate, Cassandra not fast enough is probably not going to be your problem. Just going to put that out there. It's going to be fast enough for most people. These are numbers that make nerds excited because it's better. But I think that when you look at the incremental changes, Cassandra is still a pretty awesome database, even if you're using JDK8. So I'm just going to make sure I put out that disclaimer. So anyhow, back to what this is about. There was some pretty significant improvements in how JDK11 with Shenandoah and ZGC work. And this is just how many, the throughput operations. There are some caveats though. So if you look at like, wow, if you get into P99 latency, Shenandoah looks amazing. And it has a lot of promise. But there are certain workloads that it just doesn't seem to want to work with very well. And we're still, as a project, as a community, we're going to figure out what those mean. And what's happening in JDK 17 may actually solve a lot of those problems as well. This is turning into the problem that the Java project, or is that a project? The Java community wants to solve once and for all. But I mean, these latency numbers are pretty compelling. Shenandoah is very cool in a lot of ways. But, I'm going to just pause right here. Remember, test it in your own production environment. It may not work for you the way that you think. If you look at the blog post, we go into extreme detail, or Alex went into extreme detail about how the test was run and what the test criteria were. You want to make sure that you look at those, compare it against your workload, and if it's different, then test. And then, most important thing about Cassandra community, share your information. We all benefit when you do that. So what's next? All right, so now that we're pretty much wrapping up 4.0, what's after that? Well, 4.1 obviously, and 5.0. There's already a a lot of things starting to pile up for what's after 4.0. And it's really cool. One of the things in the project that has been discussed quite a bit is this opportunity. Once we get to a certain baseline with 4.0, think of it as like a long-term support release. It's a stable, we know it's a known good, stable, baseline for increasing the amount of features and the changes that need to happen to Cassandra, especially around cloud native workloads. I think you're going to see some really cool stuff there. There's a process we have, it's called Cassandra Enhancement Proposal, CEP, and there are already some really cool CEPs out there. Right now, we have just like on the Kubernetes side, that's a big one. We've been talking about this thing called the Storage Attached Index. That's a donation from DataStax. It's essentially a replacement for what is in. It's a replacement for secondary indexing, and it is very efficient and works very well. As a matter of fact, we already have. It's already running in DataStax Astra right now. So if you want to use it today, you can. But we're donating to the project. That'll be a big one, I think, and that'll move quickly. Some of the other ones that are in draft right now, and yeah, you can see it in here. Joins, yep, that's probably going to happen. And explain plans, so we can have a query planner, and then guardrails, which I think takes that the client back pressure to the next level, which is guardrails are things like being able to restrict certain operations on the database. Like you can only add so many indexes to a table, or you can do so many operations per second, or it's just, this is giving operators an opportunity to restrict certain things that they know their developers are going to kill them on. So it's just more of a thing for operators to help you do your job better. So we really want to get into this better cadence. And this is actually why we got this testing thing in such a really weird place. Like why is this such a big deal? And it's because of this. We want to get into a regular cadence. Kubernetes is a big part of the project now. If you haven't seen anything with Cassandra, I invite you to do that today. It's gaining traction and speed very quickly. I do a once every 2 weeks, we do a SIG, a special interest group meeting. It rotates, the time rotates, but if you're interested in that, there's a Cassandra Kubernetes Slack channel on the ASF Slack. Just come meet us over there and you can join in. We have a lot of really cool stuff happening on the front end with the Stargate project. It's usability on a stable database. So again, Cassandra.io, I invite you to go check it out. If you're trying to run Cassandra and Kubernetes, we want to make sure this is the way to do this. And it's a project that is gathering knowledge as code, and it's, for DBAs to SRE, this is really an important thing to gather that information so that when someone comes along and wants to run Cassandra and Kubernetes, they just have an easy way of doing it. It adds some really cool stuff, like being able to automatically gather metrics and dump them into Prometheus and Grafana dashboards. And with Stargate, we're starting to add these really useful APIs to Cassandra, which is GraphQL, REST, a document API. Others are coming. So I think this is the future of usability is going to be about building services with Cassandra. So if you're an operator, you're probably going to provide these services to your developers, and this is what we have. The whole idea of Stargate is it's in addition to Cassandra. So it's why I think this is a really important project for a project for the Cassandra project, is that it's adding ecosystem to already a really great running database without having to massively change Cassandra. So that is it. Hopefully I got through everything I needed to. Alex, are you still there?
Yeah.
Am I still online?
No.
Have I been talking to nobody for a while? It's so hard without an audience.
Yeah, it's so much easier when you do it on site with a live audience. And yeah, that's very different with Skype. But anyway, has said
Yeah.
better than nothing. Patrick, thank you so much. It was great and very informative. As Cassandra version 4 gets closer and closer to the general availability and more people are interested, I see so many materials dedicated to version 4. Actually, I did my own talk regarding Cassandra version 4. New things and improved things, and that's very interesting to see how people see the same topic but from the very different points of views. That's incredible. That's how community works. So we have something special. Before Michel will proceed with some interesting points from his side, we want to run our favorite game, Menti Quiz, to have you answering questions, but not for nothing, but to win some swag. So there is a competition, and we kindly invite you to join us, and it's going to be menti.com, and you can use code 6839010 to enter the competition and win some swag from DataStax. If you answer fast enough, if you give right answers, you will win some prizes. And Jack Fryer, could you please tell us in YouTube comments what do we have now for the winners? So while you are joining, you can simply use this QR code, and you can use this code on the left side next to me and Patrick, 6839010. Jump into the quiz and win prizes. Before we will proceed, oh yeah, best Cassandra t-shirts, swag box with stickers, t-shirts, and so on. And you know what? We have few dozens of people today, so it's going to be a rough competition, but some people still will be able to win some prizes, and today we have 3 top places getting the prizes, and we are about to start, so I hope you jumped in already. And to warm up and make you familiar with Menti before we start, let's answer some questions before the quiz. So now, no hurry, just tell us some things. Where are you joining us from today? That's very interesting. Glasgow, interest, curious. India, to know more about Cassandra. Seattle, Bangalore, East Coast, Netherlands, Amsterdam, Hoofddorp. Nice. New Jersey, YouTube. That's pretty great. And I'm happy to see people around the world. Personally, I'm located in west part of Germany. Patrick, I never can remember the name of the place you are located in. What was that? California. I've heard something that's a tiny, quiet place. Nothing happens. Very cold. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's nothing happens here. Yeah. No, I live in a little town called Windsor, which is just like where the Queen lives in England.
So she's your neighbor, but from the other side of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that.
Okay, and Michel, you live in Netherlands or?
Yeah, correct. I live in the Netherlands. I live in a small town called Elst, between Arnhem and Nijmegen. If that rings a bell. For
Oh yeah, I know this area not so bad, actually. Very many years ago, there were great strategic game called Market Garden, and
Oh yeah.
so I know geography of your area almost as good as my homeland.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice.
Yeah, and Michel?
Yeah, I live close nearby Amsterdam.
Okay, great.
You were talking just before about getting some drinks and beers when it's possible again. I'd love to do that in Amsterdam with you guys. Looking forward to that.
Great. Okay, so next question. How much experience do you have with Apache Cassandra? That's a big question. less than 1 year, 1 to 3 years, 5 years, never used it. Okay, anyone, 2 people more than 5 years, that's already getting better. For those who never used Cassandra, our quiz may be a little bit too hard, but I have a special offer exactly for you. We have an upcoming Introduction to Cassandra workshop happening, actually, fix me if I'm wrong, tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow at 1 hour later from now on. Tomorrow we have Introduction to Cassandra workshop where we will speak of basics about this extremely powerful distributed decentralized database. So jump in and opt in for tomorrow. As a result, you will get not only priceless knowledge, but also something very special. DataStax sponsored free certification for as an Apache Cassandra developer or administrator. Usually it costs like around $150, I believe, or something like that. But DataStax sponsors your voucher for this certification, so you can learn and get the certified for free, which is amazing. And that's pretty nice distribution. Thank you for joining. Next question: are you attending for personal development or business projects reasons? Okay, I find this question hard to answer because I'm here basically for both. Okay, so that's mostly more often personal than business. But whatever your reason is, that's good enough already to join our workshops. And meanwhile, you see these gentlemen on the right part of your screen, those gentlemen, Michelle and Ab, and directly under them there is a subscribe button, and as you stayed with us for so long, that's definitely a good moment to push this subscribe button right now. And we are switching to the quiz. Now, get one thing, YouTube has a little bit delay, so if you watch YouTube first and then answer a question, you are going to be in the end of the list and no way you will win something. But I want you to win, so what you better focus to is open this menti.com with this code at your mobile phone and answer questions watching your mobile phone screen. This will eliminate the YouTube latency. Okay? Are you ready? Warm up your fingers, warm up your head, and let's start because we are getting some quiz competition and swag. And my first question is, and you have to answer fast to get more points. How many master nodes does Cassandra require? At least 3, enough to maintain consistency. Known, Cassandra is a masterless system. Seriously, why are you making me think? So, how many master nodes does Cassandra require? And time is up and I can't wait to see the results. Oh my god! So, take a look. We have people, at least 10 people, or even I would say 12 people, who gave the wrong answer. That means you absolutely must attend our tomorrow's workshop. So, correct answer is Cassandra decentralized, master-led system, no single point of failure, no master nodes required because there are no master nodes at all. And let me see the leaderboard. Who was the fastest? A lot of quick answers, a very minor delay, like a couple of points in some questions. And Dr. Centipede was the fastest one, with Vroom on the second place and Sharaf on the third. But you know what? That's only first question. So everything is going to change very soon. When? Question number 2. Question number 2. And answer fast to get more points. Is Cassandra 4.0 ready for production? Yes. No. Testing, 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 testing. There is no simple answer to this question because, well, some people are using that on production and they're pretty happy. And time is up, and some people answer it yes, and some people answer it no, but the correct answer is testing, testing, testing. It means what Cassandra is in beta 4 state. It's going to be in general availability soon, but not yet. So, it was surprisingly hard question. Cedric like t-shirts got the first place this time. Again, fastest answer. Hey, who is that? Yeah, I know Cedric likes t-shirts. Vroom holds the second place and Eddie Bet get to the third. And that's very good, and we proceed. Question 3. And I hope we will see a lot of more correct answers this time. How do you scale a Cassandra database? How complicated this project process is? Increase the scale factor. Stack nodes until we reach the desired height. Add more nodes. Add faster hardware. So that's a tricky one, at least for the beginners. If you attended one of our workshops, you will make it easy. Oh, wow! How come? Yeah, your last question was easier. But now almost everyone answered correctly. There is a pants person answered faster hardware. No. Cassandra scales horizontally. It means you add more commodity hardware over than vertical scaling with more and more expensive hardware. We prefer horizontal scaling. It's more efficient for distributed systems. So, correct answer is add more nodes. And let me see who was the fastest. Hey Cedric, how could you? Okay, Vroom was the fastest, getting to the first place, replacing the Cedric. Well, Cedric will not get any t-shirt anyway, don't worry. Vroom, Mark, and Eddie Bet on the third place. So, and we are getting to the fourth question. We are getting closer to the end. Answer fast to get more points. How do you define a proper Cassandra data model? Okay, this one will be hard. With both application workflow and entities. You create entities and association tables. Create entities and indexes. What is a data model? If you don't know what's the data model, then you definitely have something for you. We have data model and advanced data model. But I see what most of you attended our data modeling workshops already, and the correct answer is with both application workflow and entities. That's right. And with entities and indexes, it's not going to be a proper Cassandra data model. So I suggest you to watch our data modeling and advanced data modeling workshops. They're available at the DataStax Devs channel. And finally, leaderboard before the... Oh my god! Vroom and Marka both made a mistake. Such a chase. Okay, Floris gets to the first place. Floris, that was a thin chance, but you got it. So, and Tony on the second, and Eddie Bet holds the third place. Okay, and Rakesh follows them with a pretty small difference of around 70 points. That's not a lot. Good. So now we see 5 people who made no mistake. Floris, Tony, Eddie, Rakesh, and Prakash. But only 3 persons will get the prizes. And that's the final question, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 5. Answer fast. A Cassandra database can be deployed on AWS only, any combination of on-premise and cloud providers, only one of the following: on-premise, cloud, a live raft in the case of emergency. Now I'm curious. Okay, so most of you answered correctly. Cassandra can be deployed on any combination of on-premise and cloud providers at the same time working together. That's how Cassandra cluster works. It's completely platform agnostic and you can run it everywhere, combine it, unite it, and working together. And that was the final question. And now we see the final leaderboard. And Floris made the mistake. Oh my god. I haven't seen such a show, such a competition for a long time actually. So, Rakesh Moria, I hope I pronounce it right, made it to the first place with 4,462 points. And Tony gets it to the second place, and Eddie Bet still holds the third one. Such a precise work, with difference only with 1 point, that's like 1 microsecond to the second place, that's incredible. We congratulate Rakesh, Tony, and Eddie. We have Jack Fryer, our great guy, community manager, in the YouTube chat. And I guess he's typing his email right now. Please contact him, and we will agree how we send you the swag boxes with our great t-shirts and some of the other things. And just few more questions before we proceed. This year is going to be great for us. We have a lot of plans. But before we execute them, we want to ask you something about that. What do you want to hear about next? We have some great projects. You already know Cassandra workshop series we are doing regularly. Everything what relates to Cassandra, mostly for beginners and intermediate. We have Cassandra Global Meetup regarding more advanced technologies and talks done from people all around the world, best Cassandra experts from different companies. We have DataStax Monday Learning speaking about another hot technologies, clouds, containerization, serverless, and so on. So basically you are very free in the decision on what do you want to hear next. More about Cassandra. What is Astra? Lightweight transactions in Cassandra version 4. Does Psi replacement for data duplication? Interesting. Real deep dive Cassandra internals. Oh, I'm with you on that, definitely. Astra. Yeah, that makes sense. Cassandra on Azure. Well, best Cassandra on Azure is Astra, I think, but I know not everyone will agree with me. Stargate. Data model on time series. Data model on time series. I see this question. We have a special data model on time series story on the advanced data model scenarios on what was the name? In our datastax.com/dev, we have a special story on data model on time series data. So you definitely want to check this out. It will help you on how do you develop time series data and how do you maintain time series data. Okay. Complex data models. It's easy to think about text block examples, but hearing about real big models would be cool, especially the learning paths. That's partially relates to the advanced data model we were speaking recently. Patrick singing. Hey Patrick, there are some people who want to hear you singing next time. Do you think we can run a special event on that?
We might be able to do that. Yeah. Do some distributed systems singing, like, it's like, hey, everybody, welcome to the Distributed Data Show. No, I'm not going to do that.
Something with guitars, something.
Yeah, no, it just seems like really a bad idea, and whoever said it should be banned from this channel.
Okay, so great, and thank you for answers. I will store them and we will discuss that next our planning meeting, so we will see what we can do to answer them. And I have one more question. So now we are happy to ask Michelle to proceed. So I would like to ask you to share your screen, please, so we can switch to your story.
Yeah, so Alex, actually, maybe just an idea here. I've been living all my life in the Netherlands, and I know the Dutchies a bit, quite well, actually, I think. They like to get their supper around 5 o'clock in the evening. So, what I would like to propose is, maybe we should postpone my part of the presentation. Do that next time. One of my goals here as one of the newbies at DataStax here in the Netherlands is I want to really reach out to the community. There is so much that we from each other. There are so many experiences that we can share with each other. And this is our first meetup since a while, and I'm really happy with all the help that we got from the organization, from you guys, from Patrick, and we'll be doing this more often. So what I propose is let's plan a new meetup, and let's do my part of the presentation then. Because I think it is, it's interesting. There are interesting topics in there. Patrick talked a lot about Cassandra itself, Cassandra 4.0, and I think that there are 3 pillars to success when using technology, and that is, of course, the technology. It has to be a trusted technology, but also in terms of operations, it has to be easy. And in terms of developer use, it has to be easy. And those are the topics that I would like to talk about in my next presentation. So, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, great. That sounds great to me. We are out of time already anyway.
I think it's a great plan. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay,
So
then.
it's my promise to the community. We'll plan a new meetup, and there will be a lot more after that also. So I really hope to be able to engage with all of you guys.
Yeah, great. Okay, then. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, App. Thank you, Michelle. And that was a great time together. I'm happy to have so many people. And most of all, thank you to all the attendees of today's meetup. We will have more and more of that. And we invite you to join us for all of the upcoming events. Join and subscribe our channel on YouTube. Catch us at Discord. And see you next time tomorrow. That's incredible. I love to say it. I want to say it again. See you again tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.